Hello students, in this video we are going to study the extra exercise for chapter 4. The chapter name is Sorting Materials into Groups, Class 6, Subject Science. So before starting the exercise, let me recall what we had seen in the chapter. So we had seen that anything that has mass and occupies space is called matter, and the matter used in making an object is called material. In wooden chair, chair is an object and wood is the material. That is the example of material and object. Then we had seen that objects around us are made up of large varieties of materials, and a given material could be used to make a large number of objects, and it is also possible that an object could be made of a single material or of many different types of materials. Then we had seen that materials or objects are sorted into groups on the basis of their different properties like appearance, hardness, transparency, color and shape. Then we had seen that there are many different ways of sorting objects. Example of that is on the basis of the materials used in making the object like glass, metal, plastic, wooden, paper and clay objects. And generally objects are sorted on the basis of their different properties. Like in appearance, they are sorted as shiny objects and non-shiny objects. In hardness, they are sorted in soft objects and hard objects. In solubility, we are dividing them as soluble materials and insoluble materials. In floating property, we are classifying them that objects that float on the water or sink in the water. And in transparency, we are sorting them as the transparent objects, opaque and translucent objects. So now let me start the exercise for this chapter. And that first question is, choose the correct option. In that first one, which of the following is round shape? So the options are given to you, that is orange, table, compass box and book. So your correct answer is orange. Orange is the round shape object. Next is, which of the following is not a material? The option is plastic, iron, pan and wood. So the pan is not a material, it is the object, and rest of the options, that is plastic, iron and wood, that are the materials. The next question is, which of the following is not an object but is called a matter? The options are chair, pin, bar magnet and steel. So the correct answer is steel. Steel is not a object but it is a matter. Rest of the things, that is chair, pin and bar magnet, that are the objects. Bar magnet is a kind of magnet. Next is, which of the following is not made of wood? The options are chair, table, frying pan and plough. Plough, that means an instrument which is used by farmers to plough the field. So, and that is also made up of wood. So here the correct answer is frying pan, option C. It is not made up of wood. The rest of the things, that is chair, table and plough, that are made up of wood. The next question is, which of the following is made of iron? The options are pencil, pair of tongs, bed and spectacles. So pair of tongs is made up of iron, which your mother is used in cooking. So it is made up of iron. The next question is, which of the following is made of leather? The options are socks, slipper, belt and car tire. So belt is made up of leather. So the correct answer is belt. Next is, which of the following is shiny in appearance? The options are plastic, paper, copper and leather. So copper is shiny in appearance, or you can say copper has luster. So copper is shiny. Next is, which of the following is not soluble in water? The options are sugar, common salt, chalk or copper sulfate. So chalk is not soluble in water, or you can say it is insoluble in water. The rest of the options, that is sugar, common salt and copper sulfate, those things are soluble in water. The next question is, which of the following is soluble in water? The options are sand, sugar, kerosene and wax. So the correct answer is sugar. Sugar is soluble in water, whereas the other is sand, kerosene and wax, that are insoluble in water. Now next question, 10 number. Which of the following liquids is miscible in water? The options are vinegar, kerosene, coconut oil and oil. Now miscibles, that means that can mix in water. So the correct option or correct answer is vinegar, that can easily mix in water. The other things, that is kerosene, coconut oil and oil, does not mix with water. The next is, which of the following is translucent? The options are spectacle glass, sand glass, water and mirror. So the correct answer is sand glass. Sand glass is the translucent. We cannot see clearly through the sand glass. So the sand glass is the correct answer. The rest of the options are transparent objects. Next is, which of the following is not transparent? The options is glass, water, air and marble stone. So marble stone is not transparent object. The rest of the objects, that is glass, air and water, that are the transparent. The next is, which of the following floats on water? The options are iron, glass, ice and sand. So the correct answer is ice. Ice will float on the water. The rest of the options, that is iron, glass and sand, will sink in the water. So the correct answer is ice. Now next question 2 is, fill in the blanks. In that first blank is, a playing marble is blank in shape. So as you already know, the playing marble is round in shape. Its shape is round. So the correct answer is round. Next number, objects around us are made of one or more than one blank. So the objects around us are made of one or more than one materials. So the correct answer is materials. Next is, the door of a house is made of blank. So the door of a house is made up of wood. So the correct answer is wood. Next is, cooking utensils are made of blank. So generally all the cooking utensils are made of metals. So the correct answer is metal. Next, 5th number, materials that can be compressed or scratched easily are called blank materials. So the correct answer is soft. Materials that can be compressed or you can scratch them easily, that kind of materials are known as soft materials. The next 6th number, blank gas dissolved in water is very important for the survival of animals and plants that live in water. So the oxygen gas that is dissolved in the water is very important for the survival of animals and plants that live in the water. Generally oxygen gas is dissolved in water. So that is important for the animals and plants who are living in the water. Next is, substance or materials through which we cannot see are called blank materials. So the substance or materials through which we cannot see, so those kind of materials or objects are known as the opaque materials. So opaque is your answer. Now question 3. Next question is, give the answer in one word or give the only answers. In that first one, list 2 round objects. So playing marbles, ball, balloon, many examples are there. Here I wrote 2 examples, that is playing marble and ball. So these are the round objects. Next is, list 2 objects made of plastic. So bucket and lunch box. We usually found that bucket, lunch box and water bottle also, which are made up of plastic. The next is list two objects which is made up of glass. So window panes, that means one portion or window panels, and tumbler, or you can write also glass or bowl, that are made up of glass. The next is which material is bat made up. So bat is made up of wood. Next is list four metals. So the example of metals are iron, copper, aluminium, silver. You can write the example, another example also. Next is write the name of two solid materials that are soluble in water. So salt and sugar, those are the two solid materials which can soluble in water, which can dissolve in water. So the answer is salt and sugar. Next is write the name of two liquids that are immiscible with water, or you can say not mixed with water. So the answer is kerosene and oil. These two materials or these two liquids are immiscible with water. Now next is 8 number, list two solid objects that float on water and are insoluble in it or insoluble in water. So the two solid objects that float on water and that are insoluble or do not mix with water. So those two objects are wood and plastic. So the answer is wood and plastic. Next is question 4, that is true or false. Write true or false. In that first one, cooking utensils are made of metal. So the answer is true. The next is gold is not a metal. So answer is false. Gold is also a metal. Next is alum is soluble in water. So your answer is true. Next is an iron nail floats on water. So answer is false. It will sink in the water. It will not float on the water, but it will sink in the water. Next is a huge piece of ice sinks in water. So the answer is false. The huge piece or whatever the size of the piece of ice, it will always float on the water. It will not sink in the water. Next is metals have luster. So your answer is true. They have the lusters. Next is petrol is miscible with water. So your answer is false. It does not miscible or does not mix with water. Next is rice is edible material. So your answer is true. As we are eating it, it is edible material or eatable material. Next is question 5. Answer the following questions in one sentence. In that first one, what is the similarity between oil, kerosene and water? So the similarity between oil, kerosene and water is that they are all in a liquid state. These all are in the liquid state, that is oil, kerosene and water. So that is the similarity between these materials. Next is, on what factors does our choice of a material used for making any specific objects depend? So we choose a material to make an object depending on its properties and the purpose of use. For what purpose we want to use that object and what properties we want from that object, on the basis of that we are selecting or we are choosing the material from which we are going to make that object. As we had seen the example of tumbler, it is made up of plastic or metal, but it is not made up of cloth, because we want the use from the tumbler to store the water, and cloth cannot hold the water. It cannot be used to hold the water. So that was the example for this question. Next is, what do you mean by a material? So anything that has mass and occupies space is called matter, as we had already seen, and the matter used in making an object is called material. The next is, why is a tumbler not made up of piece of cloth? So a tumbler is used to store liquid. Here R will be there, a tumbler is used to store liquid, and liquid cannot be stored in cloth. So that's why we are using or we are making tumbler from the metal or plastics. We are not using a piece of cloth to make the tumbler. Next is name two gases which are soluble in water. So oxygen and carbon dioxide are soluble in water. We had already seen the example of oxygen which is soluble in water. So in the water of the sea, oxygen is soluble in the water in some amount, so that the plants and animals that are living in water, they can take or breathe in the oxygen. And the example of carbon dioxide that dissolve in water, that is you can find in the cold drink. In cold drink we found the gas while opening the cap of the cold drink, we found or we hear the sound. So that is the sound of pressurized carbon dioxide or pressurized the gas of carbon dioxide. So that is dissolved in the water or in cold drink. So this is the example of carbon dioxide that is soluble in water. Next is what is the importance of oxygen gas dissolved in water. So oxygen gas dissolved in water is very important for the survival of aquatic organisms or the organisms that are living in the water. Next is what do you mean by soft materials? So the materials that can be compressed by hand easily, those materials are called soft materials. Next is salt dissolved in water. And what is salt called here? So when the salt dissolved in water, we can say that salt is called a soluble substance, that is soluble in water. So here we can say that salt is a soluble substance. Next is in iron chair, what is the object and what is material? We had seen the example of wooden chair. Now in iron chair, what is the object and what is the material? So in iron chair, the chair is an object and iron is the material. Next is list 5 materials that float on water. So the 5 materials that float on water are wood, plastic, cork, or it's a kind of skin of the tree, then thermocol, sponge and rubber. These are the things which float on the water. Next is list 5 materials that will sink in the water. So the 5 materials that sink in water are iron, brick, glass, brass and stone. So these materials will sink in the water. Next is define transparent materials. So the materials through which we can see clearly are called transparent materials. The example of transparent materials are, we already know, that is water, air, glass. Then next is define opaque materials. So the materials through which we cannot see are called opaque materials, like paper, then stone, wood. Through these objects we cannot see, so these objects or materials are known as the opaque materials. Next is define translucent materials. So the materials through which we can see but not clearly are called translucent materials. Through this object we can see but we cannot see clearly. So these kind of objects are known as the translucent objects or materials. The example we had seen, sand glass, then oily paper, those are the translucent materials. So here up to this exercise, that is MCQ, fill in the blanks, then after true false, answer in one word and answer in one sentence. So this all exercise you have to write in your notebook. In the next video we will see the rest of the exercise of this chapter, that is answer in short, reasons, differences and classification and matching. Thank you.